Phoenix is the largest city in the United States of America without Amtrak service.
Back then, taking the train to Phoenix meant a frustrating detour. Passengers dropped miles outside the city with no real connection in sight. One rider even joked, "It felt like Phoenix didn't want us to arrive." But now, that could finally change. Arizona's governor just unveiled a major announcement toward restoring Amtrak service through a Phoenix-Tucson rail line. If it moves forward, trains would once again stop right at the city's historic Union Station, something that hasn't happened in over 25 years. So, how far has the plan come? And what could it mean for Arizona's future? Let's break it all down, right here on today's episode of Great Trainspeed. Let's take a moment to rewind. Back in 1888, Phoenix launched a streetcar system that helped shape the city's early urban development. It wasn't just a novelty. These rails connected neighborhoods, businesses, and communities in a way that set the foundation for a more connected city. But by the 1940s, that system had vanished. A devastating fire and a lack of investment sealed its fate, and Phoenix pivoted sharply toward buses and car-centric planning. By the time the population topped 1.3 million in 2000, the cracks in that approach were clear. That year, residents approved the Transit 2000 plan, marking a major shift in mindset. The result? Valley Metro Light Rail. And unlike many new systems, it didn't stumble out of the gate. Ridership exceeded expectations early on, and the network has steadily expanded ever since. Today, it plays a central role in Phoenix's evolving transit landscape. But the city's ambitions aren't stopping at the city line. Momentum is building for a regional rail connection between Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona's two largest cities. If realized, this corridor could become a game changer, giving millions a viable, sustainable alternative to the drive down I-10. We'll dig deeper into that project in the next section, but before we do, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you stay up to date on the latest in rail and infrastructure across the U.S. and beyond.
Amtrak train line connecting Phoenix to Tucson is a little closer to becoming a reality.
For the first time in over 2 decades, Amtrak is seriously working to bring passenger trains back to Phoenix. The city lost its direct rail service back in 1996, when Amtrak's Sunset Limited was rerouted to Maricopa, leaving Phoenix remarkably as the largest U.S. city without an Amtrak stop. But that could soon change. The idea of restoring service between Phoenix and Tucson started gaining traction in 2015. The concept was simple but impactful. 3 daily round-trip trains, each taking about 2 hours and 25 minutes. Instead of laying entirely new track, the proposed route would run along existing Union Pacific freight rail lines. It's a smart use of infrastructure, avoiding major new construction while helping relieve congestion on Interstate 10, one of Arizona's most heavily traveled corridors. Things picked up speed in December 2023. That's when the Federal Railroad Administration awarded a $500,000 grant through its Corridor Identification and Development Program, officially kicking off Phase 1 of the planning process. Arizona's Department of Transportation began mapping out the project's scope, drafting a timeline, and building out a $10.6 million planning budget. This early phase also laid the groundwork for future steps, getting agencies aligned, engaging stakeholders, and preparing for public outreach and environmental review. All of this is leading toward a detailed service development plan, which will guide not just the technical layout and operations of the line, but also its long-term funding strategy. As part of federal funding rules, Arizona must put up 20% of the project's total cost, and the state is stepping up. Governor Katie Hobbs committed $3.5 million to support the planning phase, an early but clear signal of political and financial support. Bringing Amtrak back to Phoenix isn't just about trains, it's about reconnecting Arizona's 2 biggest cities and laying the foundation for a more balanced, forward-looking transportation network. So on June 24th, 2025, Arizona's long-awaited push to reconnect Phoenix and Tucson by rail took a major leap forward. The Arizona Department of Transportation, ADOT, announced that the Federal Railroad Administration has officially approved its initial plans under the Corridor Identification and Development Program, or CID for short. This includes the proposed scope, schedule, and budget for creating a full service development plan. In practical terms, this means step one is done, and once a new federal grant comes through, expected in the coming weeks, Arizona can move straight into the next phase. So, what comes next? ADOT is gearing up for step 2 of the CID. That phase will begin as soon as the next round of federal funding is locked in. Over the next 2 to 3 years, planners and engineers will dig into the details, mapping out potential station sites, forecasting ridership, demand, and studying land use and environmental factors along the route. The team will also begin crunching numbers for construction and long-term maintenance costs. This milestone is more than just paperwork. It marks the first real progress toward restoring passenger rail between the state's 2 largest metro areas in decades. The proposed corridor would cover about 158 to 160 miles, starting in Buckeye, on the western edge of the Phoenix Metro, and running to downtown Tucson. In a region where I-10 is constantly clogged, this line could offer a much-needed alternative that's faster, more reliable, and far more sustainable. This isn't just about trains. It's about shaping how people move across Arizona in the decades ahead. Do you think this project will come to life? Drop a 1 if you agree, and 0 if you don't. Even with the Phoenix-Tucson Rail project advancing into Step 2 of the CID, significant challenges remain. Most notably, there's still no dedicated funding in place to build the line, but state officials are clear. This stage is about laying the groundwork, figuring out the logistics, partnerships, and investment strategy to turn the vision into a reality. As ADOT Director Jennifer Toth put it, "We see passenger rail connecting Phoenix and Tucson as an important option for Arizona." She emphasized that the project isn't just about convenience. It could drive economic growth, support job creation, and offer better travel options for families and smaller communities along the route. If this phase goes smoothly, the next step will involve early engineering work and environmental studies. That's where the big questions start getting answered: how the line will be built, where exactly stations will go, and what construction will look like on the ground. It's a long process, no doubt. But for many Arizonans, this project feels like a rare and overdue chance to finally rethink how people move around the state. Public reaction, especially on platforms like Reddit, reflects a mix of excitement, hope, and growing impatience. Many residents see the potential. Tucson commuters talked about the relief of skipping I-10 traffic. Parents of college students at the University of Arizona mentioned how useful it would be for students who don't have cars. Others expressed a preference for Amtrak running the line rather than a private operator, citing greater trust in the national rail carrier. Comments ranged from simple enthusiasm, "This is awesome," to more heartfelt anticipation, like one user who wrote, "So, looking forward to this, hopefully, being completed." But the optimism is tempered by frustration. Critics are quick to point out that the idea has been floating around since at least 2015, and nearly a decade later, there's still no construction in sight. Some worry that trains might not be running until 2035. For many, the slow pace reinforces broader concerns about inefficiency in government-led infrastructure projects. One user vented, "The government is so useless and inefficient," while others compared Arizona's lagging progress to what they've seen abroad. One commenter in Germany called the situation a crime, and another referenced Japan's world-class rail network as a reminder of what's possible and what's missing here. The sentiment is clear. Arizona needs a smarter, more connected transportation future. The question now is whether the state can keep building on this momentum before public enthusiasm turns into resignation. That's all for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. See you in the next one. Until then, take care and peace.